Are you a learning and development manager ready to upskill your learning and development department? Are you maybe a learning and development manager that's just starting out building your own department? Well, today's video is all about you and it's all for you. We're going to be talking about Anchor Training's framework for learning and development departments today. With the pandemic, L&D is the hottest field. I say it just about almost every video, probably at this point, but it's true. However, we're getting a lot of people that have fallen into the field. That was always the case, but it's really the case now. And people that are going through boot camps and academies and master's programs and things like that. And then when they actually get into an L&D department, they're not really sure about where their place is or how to apply what they've learned into their everyday process at work. It's causing for some L&D departments to really be left from the table because they're just not really producing what it is the business needs. I'm going to say it. Your L&D department, if it's a reactive L&D department and not a proactive L&D department, you will never get a seat at that table. Boom, there it is. She said it. The hottest of teas has been spilled. Those reactive L&D departments will never be seen as transformative L&D departments. Now, with all of that being said, let me give you the framework that's going to help you get that seat at that table. So here we have Anchor Training's framework for transformative L&D departments. And it has 3 pieces to it. First, you have your learning approach. Second, you have your team. And then third, and this is honestly my favorite part, your process. Let's take each piece by piece. Let's start with learning approach. So learning approach is really all about your department's philosophy. What frameworks do you subscribe to? What do you use when you're going to create learning experiences? What are these tools that you're using in order to create learning experiences that are appropriate for learning and appropriate for your organization? What models are you using? Theories, best practices? What digital tools do you have access to? If you want to have a learning department that utilizes gamification, and utilizes serious games, but you don't have the ability to create a serious game, never going to get there, right? So that's why tools is in there as well. Again, making sure you're really clear on what your learning philosophy is. Now, if you don't have a framework, let me introduce you to the Anchor Training Learner Focused Framework. This is a framework that we've put together that really gets to the heart of how to create transformative L&D material. First things first, you want content that's focused, meaning one topic at a time. We're not throwing everything into your training. Second, you want content that's engaging. So what story is it that you're telling? And then third, you want to create content that is motivating. So do you have a supplemental community or guiding materials to really take that learning from that one and done experience to that next level? Now, if you want to learn more about the learner focused framework, I'll link some videos up here that will help you get more acclimated with the learner focused framework. Now, let's talk about your team. So your team needs to come with skills, and not everyone needs to be this unicorn instructional designer that knows all the things about instructional design. They know all the things about the writing and the curriculum building. They know all of the things about e-learning development, and they know all of the things about the LMS. What you need are people that are going to be experts and specialists in each of those areas. I'm not going to lie. I'm happier when I'm able to work in areas that I'm actually the expert at, right? And it's a lot less stress. And that way I can then choose just a couple of areas that I want to strengthen, or maybe strengthen that will support my expertise and where I really am in my zone of genius. If you are creating a department where they're going to be a jack of all trades, but a master at none. So really pick team members that have these instructional design and development skills that you need in order to execute the learning experiences that align with your learning approach. The other thing that you need with your team are making sure that they're upskilled on soft skills, right? So communication, relationship building, working with subject matter experts, even having some business acumen skills, right? So just having that drive to continue to learn more, to push the boundaries, to think outside of the box. If your L&D department and your team is stuck doing the same thing over and over and over again and not trying to at least chip away a little bit to try some things that are a little bit different, you're going to be looked at as the learning and development department that does the same thing over and over and over again. Your process is critical in order to create content that supports the organization's needs. And it's critical so that your team is not always looked at as the subject matter expert. You can only be the subject matter expert at instructional design and learning and development. You cannot be expected to be the subject matter expert at every single area of the business. That's a lot to ask for instructional designers. And frankly, if they are doing that, then they need to be upskilled on the subject matter and instructional design. That's a lot for one person to handle. And I bet a lot of you will see a lot of team members out the door because that's just way too much work for one person. You need to be creating a process in which, one, your subject matter experts understand that this is a relationship. This is a partnership when we're creating content. This is what we do in order to help you get what's in your head into a learning experience, to train others, to have that knowledge shared with others. It's also that way to get out of that reactive training department, that reactive learning and development department. If you're always having people come up to you and say, we need a training on this, we need a training on that, and you're never able to figure out a way to predict the trends, you're always going to be behind. You're always going to be you're going to be a quarter behind on your content. You're never going to meet the learner's needs when they have those needs. So what are we talking about with process? We're talking about project management. So how do you intake the request and then even decide whether or not that is an actual training request or just a communication piece? Then the next thing that you want to be talking about in this process area is, what are we talking about? We're talking about reviews. How do you work with your subject matter experts? What kind of meetings are you having? What kind of time should they be dedicating to those meetings, right? How do you get from concept to launch and every step in between? How many rounds of review are you giving? And it's a little bit different when you're an internal department because there's no change order. You can't specify that, but you can say, we're going to do 2 rounds of changes. If you want 3 or 4, your launch date isn't going to be met. And we have other priorities that we're going to have to now meet because you've been adding changes and changes. So your content now sits at the bottom of the barrel because we need to get to these other things that we've outlined or we've slated to begin on this date based on you having 2 reviews. So you definitely can still hold the power even though you are an internal L&D department and you're not necessarily a vendor. That sometimes easier could say, well, it's going to cost you some more money. So those are those types of things that you want to be thinking about. Other thing that I love around the process is what's coming for a lot of your people, right? And those training requests that you're always getting year after year, or those questions that you're always getting from people. Why not create a calendar where you can say, I know in January, we're going to get a lot of people that are looking for training about this. So in October, let's start prepping that content for January. And that way on January 1st or January 2nd, it's a communication out to the department saying, hey, we have this new training. We know this always comes up around this time, and here is some updated content for you. And sometimes it's not even sharing new content. It's saying, hey, we know around January, you get this question a lot. Here's a resource that we created that will definitely aid you when you come across that situation. The other thing besides processes, procedures, and project management that goes under your process is really your branding and your communication. And it's really setting the tone for what it is or who it is that your L&D department is. What type of projects are you working on? What is that? How do you want people to talk about your L&D department when you leave the room? If they're always saying that you're slow to the uptake, you never change, you are always being reactive, and that's not how you want to be looked at, you need to talk and think about how to change that narrative. And it starts off with marketing and communications and changing those processes and these procedures so you can attract and be that brand for your department. And it's how do you communicate that, right? Communicating that process with your stakeholders. If you can figure out the process and really solidify your branding as a learning and development department, then you can become that learning and development department that is more transformative. And so here's the thing. We know when you have a learning approach and a process, you have a manager. And when you have a learning approach and you have a team, you've got designers and developers. And when you have a process and a team, you have a club and everyone's kind of doing their own thing. It's kind of like when your kids play soccer and everyone's just kind of like running after the ball, but everyone's also, some people are like running in all different directions because there's no streamlined process or framework. That's the club. And it's not until you put these three things together that you can become that transformative learning and development department. That department that people think of when there is a new initiative. That department that's going to be that consultant to say, you know what, you think that's a training problem? You don't have a training problem. You have a system problem. You have a process problem. You have a communication marketing problem. Let me help you there and point you in the right directions there. Let's focus on things, on other learning experiences that will aid that, but you're not going to need You don't need that training. That's not going to solve your problem. That is when you can transform your brand and your reputation for your department. Do you want help to become that transformative L&D department and really work on your process and areas to upskill your team? Well, Anchor Training is a solution for you. Click the link down below to contact us today. Give us a little bit more of details of what it is that you're looking to work on and more details about your team. And we will meet and do a consult and have a conversation about areas that you can strengthen and some solutions that we have for you. Friends, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in our next videos. And we're going to be diving way deep on all of these areas. Bye, friends.